Tick-tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here with Brother Rachid, our Moroccan ex-Muslim friend. Hey, I actually I kind of hear an echo.
You do?
Yeah. Why did this thing? It normally gives me the opportunity to do an echo cancellation. Check,
How
check,
about now?
check, check. Very slightly, very slightly. I think it'll be fine. Because I got headphones on, so I pick up everything. All right. So, Brother Rachid, we're having a show on. Wait a second. We have this. David, I've expected more of you. At least add AP so we can blame him. They're blaming us for being a couple minutes late, and they always want us to blame AP.
Yeah,
Like,
you can still blame him.
yeah. See, AP was bothering me behind the scenes and whining because he's not on the show. No, it's here in the AP. If AP's watching, he can jump in. But Brother Rachid said he had a list of his top 10 worst Quran verses. Top 10 worst Quran verses. And so I thought, hey, I'll come up with a list of my top 10 worst Quran verses, and then we could go through the worst Quran verses. And yep, we actually came up with different lists. We have several verses in common, but
Mine are the best.
yeah, we're gonna have to. Hey, we might have to leave it up to the. Hey, I could do a poll at the end. We'll say who had the best top 10 list.
Okay,
That'll be fun.
Good.
And this whoever loses has to retire from ministry. Is that good? So, hey, Brother Rachid, you want to jump right into these, or anything you wanted to cover beforehand?
Oh, we can start. I mean, it's exciting to imagine like we have to pick the worst verses in the Quran. Imagine if Muhammad knew that later on, 14 centuries later, it will be a competition about his Quran.
Yeah.
The worst 10 verses that would probably never crossed his mind.
And I mean, it was actually hard, right? Narrowing it down to 10.
Yes.
Like if you had said top 25, I feel like that would have been pretty easy because you can get all the main ones on there. When it's 10, it was like so after I made my list, I'm looking at your list and I'm going, "Ooh, yeah, that is a good one. That's not on my list." And then even when I made my list, I had like 13. Off the top of my head went to 13 and I was like, "Ooh, what do I cross off here? What am I going to cross off?"
I wanted to make it hard.
It is. All right, so you ready to jump into this?
Yes, let's start. Number one.
Here we go. We got Surah 9:5, ladies and gentlemen. Surah 9:5. And you want me to read them, or you want to read them? I put up two translations. I just picked.
Which one you put?
I put Hilali Khan and Shakir.
Okay, go ahead. You can read some. I'll read some.
Okay, so I'll read. I'll go with the Shakir in there because the Hilali Khan on the left adds a bunch of commentary and stuff. But so the Shakir translation of Surah 9:5. So when the sacred months have passed away, then slay the idolaters wherever you find them, and take them captives and besiege them and lie in wait for them in every ambush. Then, if they repent and keep up prayer and pay the poor rate, leave their way free to them. Surely Allah is forgiving, merciful. So why is this on the list?
Well, first of all, I want to ask you if it was it on your top list.
This actually wasn't, but it's kind of because of a weird reason. So my reason is so we know what this is saying. If you read Surah 9 verse 5, it sounds very, 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 very evil. When the sacred months have passed away, slay the idolaters wherever you find them. And we know the role that this has played in Islamic history. We know what the commentators have said about this. They call it the verse of the sword. They say this abrogates any earlier revelations that don't involve fighting these guys and slaying them and so on. But the following following Zakir Naik, Muslims have a response, and they'll talk about other things in the passage, and they'll say, no, this is just talking about a particular situation and a couple of people who broke their treaties, and Islam is actually very peaceful and wonderful. So, and then you have to actually go through the commentaries and so on to show, no, this means exactly what it says, and you guys are misrepresenting the surrounding verses to try and twist it into something not as bad as it sounds. So anyway, so as far as what it's actually claiming and how it's been used by Muslims over the centuries, yes, this would be on my top 10. So again, that's why I said it's for a weird reason. I took it off because to unpack it, to unpack it against a Muslim who is going to respond to it, you have to actually go into other verses and some commentaries and so on. So that's why I said weird reason.
I don't think you need to go anywhere else. We stay with just this verse, and we know it's a very, very dangerous verse. For why? Because it actually explicitly says that you can force people by the sword to convert to your religion. It's a forced conversion. And how do we know that? Even like they try to patch it and try to find twists to it, it's not going to succeed for several reasons. For the reasons you mentioned, because of the commentaries, because of the application through Islamic history, and also because of the context in the verse itself. So it says, when the sacred months have passed, slay. Mm-hmm. It's slay the idolaters. It doesn't say those who attacked us, those who didn't keep their promises or whatever, like our agreements, our whatever reason. It doesn't say it. It says because they worship idols. Wherever you find them, everywhere. So it's not just particular place or tribe because they invaded us, because they were trying to do something to us, and take them captive and besiege them and prepare for them each ambush. But if they repent, and here's the problem. So some Muslims, they told me, no, these guys, they were trying to attack Muslims. I say, where does it say they were trying to attack Muslims? Mm-hmm. You are just adding that. It says if they repent. It's a religious matter. They repent from their religion and accept Islam and establish worship according to Islam and pay the jizya, which is pay the zakat. I mean, if they do the prayer, pay the zakat, then leave their way free. And this is what it says. According to the translation, different translations, they say, if they should repent, establish prayer, give zakat, let them on their way. Allah is forgiving and merciful. So it specifically says the reason why Muslims are attacking them, and specifically says when they will stop killing them is like when they convert to Islam. So it has no matter how you twist it, no matter how you try to patch it, I think you are stuck with the context, you are stuck with the commentaries, you are stuck with the history of Islam. It was applied on my people. I come from Morocco. They were Christians, they were Berbers, and they attacked them. They forced them to convert to Islam. They killed so many. They took their boys and their girls as captives. It happened to the Copts in Egypt. It happened to people of Iraq. It happened to all people, even in Europe when they invaded Europe. They did the same thing. So no matter what Zakir Naik says, he has no history to back his claim. He has no commentary to back his claim, and the context doesn't help him.
Yeah, and we have who we have. Ibrahim over in the chat says, you know, guys, I used to believe these guys, but when reading it, it's obvious that this surah is talking about battles. Where? So when the sacred, I mean, wait, he says this surah. Yeah, surah.
It's a battle, actually, yeah. But from one side.
Yeah, the surah, yeah, he's right. The surah is talking about battles. The surah is talking about battles, but it's Muslims fighting against people because of what they believe. And notice how this verse lines up perfectly with the hadith where Muhammad says, I've been commanded to fight against people till they say there's no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of God. So for Muslims who want to say you're misinterpreting this verse, Brother Rachid, Muhammad misinterpreted it in the same way. Because you have this verse of the Quran, and then Muhammad says, I've been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah.
So let me respond to those who say that we misinterpreted the verse. How about al-Tabari? So he doesn't know. How about Ibn Kathir? How about al-Qurtubi? How about al-Jalalain? How about all the Muslim commentaries? How about Umar ibn al-Khattab? Did he misunderstand the Quran? How about Abu Bakr, who invaded other tribes, and he applied this verse? So how about all the caliphs and all the Umayyad Caliphate, all the Abbasid Caliphate, when they invaded other countries? Were these countries attacking Muslims or the other way around? Was Morocco attacking people in Mecca, or they sent their army to the people of Morocco? Was Spain invading Mecca or the other way around? So if Rashid and David misinterpreted the verse, then all your Islamic leaders, all your Islamic commentators, all your the hadith collectors like Bukhari and Muslim, all of them were wrong. And you on this comment in their YouTube, you are the only one who holds the truth.
Yeah, that's how Quranic interpretation works, I've found, Brother Rachid. It's 14 centuries of Muslims all got it wrong, and then me, a Muslim in 21st century living in the West, I somehow got it right, and I'm the only one who ever understood it. And that's how it works. You have Ibrahim again here. He says, David, this verses were sent in a battle. What battle was this sent in?
Yeah, actually, there is no battle because it says wait until the sacred months pass.
Yeah, hey, if you're in the middle of a battle, hey, Ibrahim, if you're in the middle of a battle, are you going to say, hey, yeah, wait until all these months passed and then fight back? Is that what you're saying? Because that would be the stupidest military. Are you saying Muhammad was the stupidest military strategist in all of history? Is that what you're saying?
And if they were attacking them, they would not wait. They have to respond right away. Otherwise, they will be defeated.
Yeah. So you're not making any sense, much like your prophet there, Ibrahim. But nice try. Now you can try it. You ready to move on to the next one, Brother Rachid?
So why can we give like in a simple sentence why this is the worst verse in the Quran?
Oh yeah.
I think because it before this, imagine if this was not revealed. Before this, people were not forced to convert to any religion. The Arab tribes never forced anybody to embrace their religion. Actually, they had multi-religions in Quraysh. And this was unique even to Arabs. So it was introduced by Muhammad, by Muslims, and it ruined all the Arabic Peninsula and ruined the whole world.
And lots of people dead because of this verse. And it's especially bad because, again, Muslim commentators have said that this abrogates earlier revelations. You have, when we ask modern Muslims, like probably Ibrahim, and we say, hey, what does Islam teach? And he'll go to, oh yeah, to you be your religion and to me be my religion. That's what Islam teaches. Or you fight people who are fighting you. Yeah. And then you have Surah 9:5, which abrogates the earlier revelations. In other words, anything you want to point to that's actually peaceful, this abrogates or cancels it. And so it cancels the entire Dawah script in terms of saying that Islam doesn't call for the violent subjugation of the entire world. So yes, very, 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 very sick, evil, twisted verse. Amal here says, David, do you see God Logic's stream? Do you seriously think I'm watching another stream while I'm on this stream? Is that what you're saying? No, we know God Logic is having a huge mega stream over there, but here we are. So we're going through the top 10. We're going through the top 10 list. All right, are we ready to go to the next one? Next one. Here we go.
Yeah,
we got Surah 9, verse 29.
Yeah, I can read, but I have Sahih International here with me. I have Pictel, I have Yusuf Ali, I have Al
You
Hilali.
can you can
So
read you can read you can read anyone. Matter of fact, I mean it's just one verse at a time, so we can always read two translations if we want. So
yeah,
go with whatever you want, and then I'll read another one.
I like Sahih International because it's simple. Fight against those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger have made unlawful, and who do not adopt the religion of truth, means Islam, from those who were given the scripture until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled.
And this is actually on my list. This is actually on my
Oh,
list.
yes.
Yes. So, um, and
That's good.
this is kind of a things had been rough with Muhammad for a while with the Jews at first and then the Christians. But it's similar with 9:5 in the sense that there were nicer verses earlier in the Quran. But by the time you get to 9:29, then matter of fact, I'll just give a rough outline for everyone out there if you're new to this. When Muhammad starts preaching in Mecca, it's, hey, Jews and Christians are going to be on our side. It's going to be Jews, Christians, and Muslims all on the same side against the polytheists. We're all united. The people of the book and the Muslims, we're all united. And
Yes.
then he gets to Medina and the Jews reject him and start making fun of him, and because they know he's a false prophet. So they expose him. Then it's, oh, Jews have to be subjugated. It's going to be Christians and Muslims against Jews and polytheists. That's what you read in Surah 5. It's going to be Christians and Muslims united against Jews and polytheists. And then later on, of course, Christians rejected him, and then it became this. You have to fight. Guys, notice Ibrahim, we know you're still watching. Ibrahim, you have a problem. If you're saying your God is really trying to say, fight people who are attacking you, he has a really weird way of saying it. Fight those who do not believe. Brother Rachid.
Yeah.
If someone's fighting you, someone's coming and attacking you, and you want to say, hey, let's just fight in self-defense. Are you going to say fight those who do not believe in Allah? Or are you going to say, hey, fight this guy who's attacking me?
Well, I mean, if you are fighting somebody who's attacking you, you are defending your life. You have no interest in what he believes in. You have no interest in converting him to anything except like stopping the harm that's coming to you, coming your way. So if you say fight who do not believe in Allah, it has to be the reason for fighting is not believing in Allah. This is common sense. It doesn't need a PhD.
Yep. Very easy to understand. And it's similar to 9:5 in that it tells you how to make people stop fighting, but it's different because people of the book are in a different category from the idolaters, in that we're people of the book. So we can actually stop being attacked by paying tribute money to Muslims, paying tribute money, the jizya, to Muslims and to acknowledge their superiority and to acknowledge our own inferiority.
Yes, and it has many problems. This verse, one of them, why you fight people who do not believe the same belief like you about the Creator, but because Christians and Jews, they believe in a creator. They believe in God. But he's fighting those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day. Christians believe in the last day, but they have to believe the same way that Muhammad believes in the last day, the same way he believes in God, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and his messenger. Here comes the part. So they have to follow the laws of Muhammad, because that's what makes them really believers. Have made unlawful what do not, and who do not adopt the religion of truth. So the main reason why fighting those, because they don't have the religion of truth. And of course, the religion of truth is Islam here. from those who were given the scripture means Christians and Jews until they give the jizya. I have a problem with this. So if Allah and Muhammad, they were really concerned about the fate of Christians and Jews and really they want them to be saved, why they are accepting bribe, why they are accepting money in this case? Like there is, I don't think he was really concerned about the eternity of Jews and Christians. He was just trying to make them submit in a way or another.
And so you have for everyone who's again, for everyone who's new to this, Surah 9 is the last major surah of the Quran revealed. These are the final marching orders. These are the final marching orders. And so anything here that conflicts with things that happened earlier in the Quran, this abrogates them. And so you get the final marching orders. How are you supposed to treat idolaters? You're supposed to, when you're in a position of power, you're supposed to slay them wherever you find them, unless they convert. With Jews and Christians, you're supposed to, keep in mind, Jews and Christians also have the option of converting, but if they want to remain Jews and Christians, you fight them until they pay you. And it's funny, we already have Ibrahim. This is really funny. Ibrahim says, yeah, you need a strong understanding of Arabic. Gee, I wish we had someone here with a strong understanding of Arabic.
Do you think I don't know Arabic? Let me read the verse in Arabic. قاتلوا الذين لا يؤمنون بالله ولا باليوم الآخر ولا يحرمون ما حرم الله ورسوله ولا يدينون دين الحق من الذين أوتوا الكتاب حتى يعطوا الجزية عن يد وهم صاغرون. What do you think?
That sounds like a pretty good understanding of Arabic to me. But think about this. This always cracks me. One, it cracks me up because of what the verse actually says, and if they tried to come up with some other interpretation, the verse just makes no sense at all. But also because of the very next verse on your list, which clarifies what fight means in the context of Surah 9. So on the one hand, just going with this verse on its own, I've had Muslims say, oh, but fight here means debate them. You're going to debate them. You're going to preach to them. And okay, so follow the logic here. You're going to debate us until we pay you tribute money?
Yeah.
And acknowledgement of your superiority. So we're going to have a bunch of debates and we're just going to say, oh, we're so mad. We're so upset with you debating us all the time that we're just going to pay you half our money. We're just going to start paying you half. Because remember, you had the Jews of Khaybar who had to pay the jizya, and it was half their annual produce. So that's how this works. Ibrahim, we say, hey, stop debating us and we'll pay you half our stuff.
But let me, at least for the sake of argument, let me say David doesn't know, he doesn't have a strong understanding of Arabic. I don't have it. Well, how about Al-Tabari? Do you think he never understood Arabic?
Nope, he was just clueless.
Well, if you go to Al-Tabari, he explains it the same way we are explaining it in this streaming.
Yeah, and Ibrahim, and by the way, Ibn Kathir as well in his Sirah.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to mention everybody else. I just picked one.
Ibn Kathir in his Sirah, he includes the historical background on this, and he says that he basically ties it all together. And Ibrahim, since you actually have no clue what you're talking about, this would be a good, you can follow along. But if you go to Surah 9, verse 28, that's when Muhammad is told that that the pagans will no longer be allowed to take the pilgrimage to Mecca and so on. And it's in Muhammad's tribe, the Quraysh, they were worried about how this would affect their relations with the unbelievers. They had trade agreements and so on, and the pagans took the pilgrimage to Mecca. And if you just said, hey, you're not allowed to go here anymore, that's going to affect how well you get along with the rest of Arabia. And so the Ibn Kathir says that they're told this in Surah 9, verse 28, pagans can't take the pilgrimage to Mecca anymore. The people of Mecca were worried this is going to hurt our trade, But then it says, but Allah can enrich you if he wills. And then next verse, how's Allah going to enrich you? Fight those who do not believe in Allah. You're going to fight the Jews and Christians until they pay you jizya. That's how you're going to make money. And he says, after this, Muhammad raised his army and went to fight the Romans at Tabuk. In other words, he wasn't because the Romans are attacking. It's because he'd been commanded to fight and subjugate Jews and Christians until they pay tribute money. So somehow Ibrahim knows better than Tabari, knows better than Ibn Kathir, knows better than 14 centuries of Muslims, because that's how things work.
I have a simple question for Ibrahim and whoever thinks like him. If this verse doesn't mean to fight Christians until either Christians and Jews until they either convert to Islam or live as dhimmis, second citizen status, paying al-jizya, which is like you pay something, a very high tax to Muslims, and you pay it with inferiority. You have to be subdued. You have to be humbled. You have to be humiliated, actually. Why, through 1400 centuries, Egyptians or Copts in Egypt, they were paying jizya to Muslims? If this verse it doesn't mean what we are saying. And jizya stopped only with the fall of the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East. Christians were paying jizya until 1924. How do you explain all those centuries they were paying jizya? Based on what?
A misunderstanding. And they all misunderstood it, and that's the connected problem for people like Ibrahim who want to reinterpret this. So we know what the historical background is, and then the verses that follow, they give the justification for fighting Jews and Christians, and it's Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, and Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. That's the justification for violently subjugating us. So no way to reinterpret this that fits the historical context, no way to reinterpret this that fits the literary context, so the verses that come before it and after it. And as Rashid was pointing out, if everyone's misinterpreting this, then what is Ibrahim saying? That Allah is just a terrible communicator who can't say what he means? Because Brother Rashid, I'm always confused when Muslims say, oh, what this is really saying is just fight in self-defense against attacking you. Brother Rashid, are there Arabic words for just fight people who are attacking you in self-defense?
Yeah, I will say it to Ibrahim if he understands Arabic. قاتلوا الذين يعتدون عليكم. It was easy.
Yes.
Easy.
Wow.
Like,
that
just
sounded real
fight
easy.
those who are attacking you. Just easy, simple. And we have a million ways how to say it. It just seems that Allah ran out of words, and his dictionary was very short, so he couldn't use any other words. He just used these.
Yeah, it's just so Ibrahim, just keep in mind when you say Allah meant something completely different from what he says, you're telling us that Allah is just a terrible, awful, ridiculous communicator. And Ibrahim, you would never accept this excuse from anyone else on the planet. If Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Netanyahu or any other leader stood up at the podium and said, we are going to fight those who believe in Allah and Muhammad.
Yeah.
You naturally would say, oh, well, that's mean. It sounds like you're talking about fighting all Muslims. Yeah, that would sound like you're talking about fighting all Muslims. And suppose after issuing this command, one of their followers came up to you and said, no, they're just talking about fighting ISIS. Well, wouldn't you say then you need to be clear? You need to be clearer about that. You need to say exactly who you're talking about. And wouldn't you expect that? And you'd be expecting that basic level of clarity from a merely human communicator, but you say that
the problem, David, the Quran says it was revealed in a clear Arabic tongue, bilisanin arabiyyin mubin. It's like it doesn't need Ibrahim or anybody else. That's what the Quran claims.
Yeah, so that's the other thing, Ibrahim. Not only do you have a lower standard for your God's speech, He can be hopelessly unclear, but you would never accept that from a human communicator. You're also completely undermining what Allah says when He brags throughout the Quran that His speech is perfectly clear, and you say, "Oh yeah, but He means something totally different from what He actually says." Hey, Brother Rachid, are we ready to go on to the next one? Because this is another problem. This
Yeah.
is the next verse is another problem for Ibrahim. Namely, he's saying, "Oh, fight here doesn't mean what you
Yeah.
guys think of as fighting." Yeah, problem, Ibrahim, is you've got Allah here in Surah 9, verse 111,
Go
explaining
ahead, Dave.
explaining what it means to fight in Allah's cause. Right. So I'll go ahead and read. I'll go ahead and read these two different translations. And if Ibrahim wants to say that these guys didn't understand Arabic, he can. But verily Allah has purchased of the believers their lives and their properties for the price that theirs shall be the paradise. They fight in Allah's cause. Okay, so Ibrahim says this means fighting in Allah's cause means something else. It doesn't mean killing.
Yeah.
Let's finish the sentence. They fight in Allah's cause, so they kill others and are killed. They keep fighting until they get killed. That's what fighting in Allah's cause means. And then I'll go and read the Shakir translation. Surely Allah has bought of the believers their persons and their property for this, that they shall have the garden. They fight in Allah's way, so they slay and are slain. They slay and are slain. And then he tries to claim that the same thing is true in the Torah and the Gospel, which it's not. But
Yeah.
Ibrahim, you want to say this means something different from fighting? Allah explains exactly what He means by fighting in Surah 9: killing and getting
So,
killed, slaying and being slain.
so David, I choose the first one, 9:5, because it's a forced conversion, and it killed millions through history because it was. It's a terrible, terrible verse in the Quran because it was the cause of suffering in this world for many, many people around the world, for millions, and for countries, and for even continents. They suffered from that verse. The second verse also was uh, a terrible verse against Christians and Jews, and still applied until today. Even when ISIS was in Iraq, they applied it against the Christians. They asked them to pay jizya or leave. They didn't kill them. They were much better than the Quran. But in other places, still Christians are attacked because of this verse. And people are asking them either to submit, or like in Nigeria and other places, either to submit or to pay jizya. So, and through history, it happened to, as I said, to the Berbers in North Africa, to the Copts in Egypt, to Iraq, people of Iraq, people of Syria, people of Levant. All these people, they suffered from that verse. This verse, 9, 111, is another problem because it says that you have to sacrifice yourself in the way of Allah and you will get paradise as a compensation for your sacrifice. This one actually was one of the main verses used by suicide bombers because they believe that Allah
Mm-hmm.
purchased their souls from them, and they will sacrifice while they are killing others. They will sacrifice themselves, as it says. It says that they kill and are killed. They kill and they are killed. And Al-Qaradawi said that suicide bombs in Israel are halal. They are permitted based on this verse and other hadiths. So when somebody now goes to a crowd of kuffar, mushrikeen, polytheists, and explodes himself, and he believes that he will go to paradise and will have 72 versions based on the hadith, he is actually basing his belief on this verse in the Quran as well.
Yep, absolutely. So this it's funny because you had More peaceful verses in the Quran, earlier in the Quran than in Surah 9. But then Surah 9 comes along and it abrogates or cancels those with verses like Surah 9:5, Surah 9:73, 123, 9:29, and so on. Cancels these earlier revelations where you could actually get along with unbelievers without subjugating them. But then 9,
Yep.
111, for people who want to reinterpret 9:5 and 9:29 and say, oh, fighting means something else there. It means something completely different. Allah specifically says it. Let me tell you guys, this is Allah speaking. He says, let me tell you exactly what I mean by fighting in Allah's cause. I mean killing and getting killed. That's what you're doing. Why? And you think, oh, why should we want to kill until someone kills us? We go around killing and then they kill us. Why should we do that? Because I'm giving you the garden. That's why. I'm giving you paradise. You get to spend eternity deflowering virgins. That's why. And so it's like as clear. It's as clear as day. And then there's it's actually peaceful. My goodness.
And David, there's no surprise that the most terrible verses, 3 of them so far, are from chapter 9, because chapter 9 is one of the worst chapters in the Quran. And actually, it doesn't start with the famous introduction to every chapter in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. The commentators of the Quran said, because it has no mercy in it, that's why it doesn't start with the name of Allah, the merciful.
And really, really, really violent verses. And so you have people who are actually making fun of Ibrahim's attempts to reinterpret it. They're saying, oh, maybe it means killing us softly with their words. Yeah. It means killing with kindness, Brother Rachid. You're going to kill them with
love,
with kindness and love and
kills.
hugs. You're going to smother them with hugs and kisses. And here you have Joe says, fighting with feathers, maybe. Yeah, they're coming up with great interpretations for our friend here. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Let me jump out of this real quick. All right. Wanted to address another dumb comment. Where did it go?
Oh, bring it on.
No, we have this one. This is kind of on a different topic. People trying to divert attention. Dear Woody Woodpecker, but this is actually helpful for interpreting things.
Oh.
Dear Woody Woodpecker, why Jesus says in Matthew 10:34, do not suppose that I've come to bring peace to the earth. I do not come to bring peace, but a sword. Yeah, so you got two things. You got two things you could do here, A Spirit. One, to understand a text, one, you want to look at it in the context, right? You want to look at it in the context of the surrounding verses. You also want to look at the historical context. But if you go to this, if you're talking about the literary context, the context in the Bible, one, you could at least read the verses that come right after it and the verses that come before it. And then you could compare that interpretation with everything else Jesus said to make sure you're interpreting it properly. What's going on here in 1034? Jesus is the Messiah. His followers believe that he's the Messiah, and they believe that he's going to do what? He's going to just, boom, bring peace to the world. And he says, I didn't come to bring peace, but a sword. Now, if you're going with the just immediate context, he says he's come to set a father against his son, a son against his father, and so on. What he means is this is going to be division. In fact, Luke, in the parallel accounts, he doesn't even say sword. He says, I come to bring division. Meaning things are going to be divided up. There are going to be people who follow Jesus and who don't follow Jesus, and this is going to cause division. So this doesn't refer to going out and hacking people up with a sword. If you wanted to say this is about Jesus saying go hack people up with a sword, then you'd have a problem with all the verses where Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my followers would be fighting. You'd have a problem with Jesus saying, put your sword back into its place, for those who live by the sword will die by the sword. You're saying Jesus is saying live by the sword, when elsewhere he says the exact opposite. But there's a bigger problem, namely the verses that come before this. But what are you saying? What are you saying, Rachid?
This verse applies to people who convert to Christianity and suffer persecution like me.
That's the other thing. That's in the context.
So Jesus is saying to people like me, Rashid, Be careful. I didn't come with peace. Whatever you are going to believe when you follow me, it's going to be a sword on your neck.
Mm-hmm.
You will be killed for my sake. If you don't get it, read the whole chapter. It's clear.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to his disciples. And that's what happening to us in the Muslim world. We read it, we understand it because we lived it. But if you are trying to use it just for a debate, shame on you.
Mm-hmm.
Because this verse, if you say Christ is saying this verse as he is going to wage a war, tell me how many wars Jesus waged. Tell me how many people his disciples killed. None.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you talking about? If I'm mentioning the Quran, I can show you how many battles Muhammad did, how many people they killed, and also his disciples or his Sahaba, his companions. You have no case here. You lost.
Yeah, and notice the parallel, Brother Rachid. We read verses like Surah 9, verse 5, Surah 9, verse 29, Surah 9, verse 111. We say, look, these are clear calls for violence. And Muslims will say, no, 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 that's just a call for self-defense and only fighting people who are attacking you. And we point out, okay, then Muhammad and his companions and the following centuries of Muslims all misinterpreted that. So how did they all misinterpret it? In other words, you look at how the original people interpret it. They interpret those as commands only to fight in self-defense. No. Same thing here. If someone is saying, this is actually Jesus saying, pick up a sword and go hack people up. Okay. Did Jesus interpret it that way? Did he go around hacking people up? No. Did his followers? No. Did Peter and Paul? No, they didn't. And the one disciple who ever pulled out a sword, Jesus told him, put it back into its place. And so you'd have a problem saying, here you'd be saying, I understand that this verse is calling for violence, even though none of Jesus' companions understood what it means at all. And as Brother Rachid was pointing out, read the context, I'm just going to read the little passage you were talking about. Right before this, right before this in chapter 10. So he says, I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Right before this, what do we have? Jesus says, verse 16, behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of, so you're the sheep. The other people are the wolves. I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves. Beware of men, for they will deliver you over to courts and flog you in their synagogues, and you will be dragged before governors and kings for my sake to bear witness before them and the Gentiles. When they deliver you over, do not be anxious how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you in that hour. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will deliver brother over to death, and the father his child. And children, keep in mind, later on when he says father against son, son against father, brother will deliver brother over to death, and the father his child. And children will rise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. But when they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. For truly I say to you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. So Jesus is saying, hey, this is how they treated me. They're going to come after you. So what are they hearing? When Jesus' disciples signed on to join Jesus, they think, aha, we're part of the Messiah's group. The Messiah is going to take over the world, and we're all going to be living like kings. And he says, no, actually, you're going to be persecuted and executed. And he tells them that.
I can't believe that people still using this verse to say that Christianity is violent.
It's pathetic. It's pretty pathetic. Yeah, it's extremely, extremely, extremely dumb. And so, but I wanted to, you normally wouldn't even respond to that since it's so dumb, but I wanted to respond to it because it's an illustration of the exact same method that we use with the Quran, right? If you're saying a verse says this, okay, read the surrounding verses, look at the context, look at how it was originally understood by the followers and so on. It's exactly what we do. It's exactly what we do with the Bible. But when we're talking about the Quran, You have the clearest verses in the Quran calling for the violent subjugation of the world, and they'll say, no, he means something else. And they'll contradict the context, they'll contradict Muhammad's companions, they'll contradict centuries of Muslim interpreters. Then they'll go to a verse by Jesus and say, see, this is calling for violence. And they'll contradict the context, contradict the interpretation of Jesus' companions, and contradict every Christian who's ever walked the planet. And then just by magic, they'll say, nope, Jesus is calling for violence, but Muhammad's not. It's absolute insanity. Absolute insanity. Let's take a couple super chats real quick, and then we'll jump back into the list. Dizzle, saw your collab with Melissa Doherty today. Unexpected, but great to see. I'm disappointed you didn't call her out for being a wingeling, though. Yeah, those are followers of Mike Winger, Brother Rachid. But yeah, you normally warn people behind the scenes at first instead of calling them out in public. Mosh Cohen says, first of all, good night to both of you. And hey, Brother Rachid. Mosh Cohen says, marhaba ahui Rachid.
Ahuya.
Ahuya. Okay.
Yeah.
2 car bombs attacks in Greater Jerusalem. One of the cars had terrorists infiltrate. Mosh Cohen works over there in Israel. Infiltrate a settlement. So far, not sure if people died. 5 wounded, and the Hajis were neutralized. And an update on Operation QR Code Judea and Samaria. Let's see.
This is what we were talking about. People who are applying the Quran, 911.
He says 3 more villages have been exposed to your awesome channels. Found a buddy of mine from the Judean sector, and he is going to it there too. Much love. So, Brother Rachid, Mosh Cohen's over there in Israel, and he puts the little codes that you can scan with the phone, but he puts it to our channels and stuff. So he goes around spreading. He goes around spreading a code to send people to YouTube videos and YouTube channels and so on. So super cool stuff. And he said, you need to know Arabic, says the people who do not speak Aramaic yet butcher every Talmudic passage they find online by their Muppet Daoists. Yeah, that's the great stupidity here. Everyone, no, you can't understand multiple levels of stupidity with, oh, you can only understand the Quran in Arabic. Well, what good is it if the vast majority of the world's population don't speak Arabic, and you even have hundreds of millions of Muslims who don't speak Arabic, but it can only be understood in Arabic. So that's one problem. Another problem is the Quran says that the reason it was revealed in Arabic was for Arabic speakers, because Arabs couldn't just trust Jews and Christians, what Jews and Christians were saying about their scriptures. You needed something you could read for yourself. And therefore, if you say, oh, it's the book for all mankind, even though people can't understand it, what are you saying? We all have to listen to Muslims tell us what it means? That's exactly the problem the Quran says it was trying to avoid. And yeah, the third problem there, which Mosh is pointing out, is these same guys, these same Dawa guys will go to the Old Testament. They don't understand Hebrew. They'll go to the New Testament. They don't understand a word of Greek. They'll talk about the Talmud. They don't understand any of that they're talking about. And so just absolute hypocrisy here. So, yeah, but that's Dawa. That's Dawa. What are they supposed to do? Muslims and context, 2 words that do not go together, like water and oil. Pretty Islamophobic there, Rick. And is it possible Islam used to be a sect of Christianity of some sort? It is a theory that Islam it started off as like a heretical Christian cult that kept growing. That's a theory, but I don't think there's enough to even go on to say that stuff with clarity.
I don't buy it.
Yeah, what I would say, Tanzil, what I would say is, it's pretty clear that Muhammad is drawing on some heretical Christian groups. It's pretty clear that he's hearing some stuff from them and not able to distinguish an Orthodox Christian from a heretical Christian. And he's not able to distinguish between an authentic source and a source that's written in the 5th or 6th or 7th century, a total fabrication. He couldn't tell the difference. He hears a story. They called him the ear in the Quran. They called him an ear because he would just believe everything he hears.
I think we should call him that too.
Yeah.
Ear.
Yeah, we should start calling him that. And whenever someone's talking about, we should start selling. And so the ear that you follow, and you follow that guy, the ear, Muhammad the ear. We should start saying that, guys. Muhammad the ear.
The ear, peace be upon him.
And the ear, peace be upon him.
ear headphones be upon it.
There's no God but Allah, and an ear is his prophet. Classic.
Yeah.
And finally here, Mukau says, people wrongly believe the Quran is peaceful while Hadith is violent. Is there a video by you or anyone that points out all the violent verses in the Quran? If there isn't, could you make one or series of videos, please? Yeah, I used to make lots of videos on this stuff, Mukau. And the one that's most relevant was one I made. It actually eventually got banned by YouTube, even though it's like, I have no idea why they would ban this. There's not against any policies, but it was
It's
titled.
too violent.
It was titled "Top 10 Quran Verses for Understanding ISIS" or something like that. And I went through everything that ISIS was doing, and people said, "No, you see, they're not Muslims. They're killing fellow Muslims, so that means they're not Muslims." And I would quote 973, where Muslims are commanded to fight not only unbelievers but also hypocrites, so Muslims who aren't following it properly, and so on. So I just went through and I put all these verses together. Again, eventually got banned but that was complete Quran. There was no hadiths there. But we're kind of doing that now, Mukau. We're kind of going through just what the Quran says. Notice, I mean, I'll mention a hadith here or there that's kind of relevant, but that's just to show that I'm only quoting hadiths now just to show that how we're interpreting the Quran is exactly how Muhammad interpreted the Quran. So in other words, if a Muslim says what he really means is this, and Muhammad said, no, it means exactly what it said, then a Muslim is setting himself against Muhammad on that, which would be a big no-no. Muhammad's supposedly the walking Quran. And David, I would like to sponsor your consumption of one page of the Quran on behalf of A Spirit, Ibrahim, and other dinguses just attempting to waste everyone's time. Hang on to that thought, stuff and things. Wait for a show with AP. Sometimes Rachid, me and AP have a little, when guys start insulting, we start eating pages of the Quran or something like this just to make them stop. So someone is saying make them stop by doing that, but no, we'll let them slide. It's actually, they're actually helping us notice stuff and things. All the comments with the complaints and so on. It's actually helping us. We're going through the proper methodology and expanding upon that.
So your stomach now is holy?
Yeah, that's how we do. I mean, think if Muhammad said drinking his pee would mean that you're never going to have a stomach ache again. Imagine like eating the speech of Allah, what that would do for someone. Powerful stuff.
Don't drink wine on it.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't eat pork on it next day.
No, you'd be in all kinds of trouble. All right, we ready to jump back into the Quran here?
Yes.
And here we go. Here we have next up.
This is on my list. I don't know if you have the same one, but this is on my list.
Not on my list. Wasn't on my list. But very good verse. If I were to make a top 20, this would be in the top 20, but it wasn't in my top 10. But you want me to read it, or do you want to read it in the Sahih International, or?
Well, let me see. I think I will pick Pigtail because this one. Sahih International says battle has been enjoined upon you while it is hateful to you, but perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not. So Allah knows what's good for you. So He ordered you to wage battles, to wage war. I know you hate it, but I know what is good for you. What is good for you is to kill people and go after them and convert them by force and go after the Christians and Jews. I know you hate it, but Allah knows better. So this is actually a summary. It seems that Arabs who are following Muhammad, they were hesitant to wage war. They hated that. It's not what they followed Muhammad for the first day, and he brought this verse to convince them that Allah knows better. Even if you hate this war, that's not really good for you to hate this war. What is good for you is to wage war against other people.
Yeah, and this is another especially bad verse because you would have I mean, think about this, because this applies to even to Muslims who today would try to reinterpret the Quran to think that it's peaceful and so on. Who are these Muslims? Who are Muslims who are saying, no, the Quran's actually peaceful? These are people who don't like fighting, right? Just by nature, they don't like fighting. They don't like the idea of fighting. And then you have Allah telling them this in Surah 2. Hey, fighting in Allah's cause, jihad, waging jihad, fighting, it's ordained for you, even if you dislike it. And did it ever occur to
David?
Yeah.
David, this is really a good answer to Ibrahim, because I mean, it seems they hated fighting. It's not, if you are attacked by someone, you don't have the time even to hate it or love it. You just defend yourself. Who hates defending himself?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does. It's by nature you start defending yourself. So if the Quran says that the followers of Muhammad hated to wage war, it means like they were not defending themselves.
Yep. And you already had commands earlier in Surah 2 that you, of course, have to fight in self-defense and so on, fight those who fight you and so on. And here you have, but now we're talking about jihad. Hey, it's ordained for you. But we don't like it. Doesn't matter if you don't like it. Isn't it possible? Isn't it possible, Muslims, that you dislike something which is good for you? And that you like a thing, namely not fighting, which is bad for you? Allah knows, so Allah knows better than you. Allah knows better than you. He knows that you need to go out and fight, and this is actually better for you. So, yeah, again, this is really rough stuff, because it tells peaceful Muslims to be violent. It tells people who don't like violence that they need to be violent anyway. People who don't want to kill, that they have to kill anyway. People who don't want to subjugate the world, that they have to anyway. And you have tons of Muslims who wouldn't even know this verse, because Muslims almost never know anything about the Quran beyond the things that they recite for their prayers and things like that. But this is one of the verses we're told, but look at all the peaceful Muslims. Yes, keep in mind, there are tons of peaceful Muslims who don't want to fight us, don't want to kill us, don't want to do anything. They just want to live normal lives and so on. As Islam expands, these are some of the verses that Muslims would then bring to the peaceful Muslims. And they would say, hey, what you're doing right now, Allah condemns you. Here are the verses, so pick your side. If you do not care what Allah says here, we're going to classify you as an apostate. So change your tune right now and get with the program. And they would be required to get with the program, or they would be victims of jihad as well. They would be put in the apostate category, the heretic category, or something like that. Another comment, by the way, a spirit, this is the last time I'm going to respond to you, because I don't have time for this. We're trying to go through our verses. And so if you keep posting complete nonsense, I don't know, we might just ban you. But if you want to contribute something to the conversation, contribute something to the conversation. If you want to challenge what we're saying, challenge what we're saying. But all you're doing is continuing to try to divert, and in a really stupid fashion. But here you say, dear Woody Woodpecker, you said Muhammad was peaceful earlier, Christian also peaceful earlier, then ha 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 ha. So what he's saying here is, you were saying Muhammad's there were peaceful revelations earlier in the Quran that were abrogated by violent revelations. And then I'm saying, and then he's pointing out, but Christians later got violent. Not the same thing, a spirit. When you're talking about the Quran, earlier revelations are canceled by later what? Revelations. These are commands of God. They're canceled by commands of God. What you're saying is, even though Christians were commanded to live in peace, you later had Christians who would kill people for refusing to convert or things like that. So what would you be? Were these guys a source of revelation? Did these guys have revelation that overruled Jesus? Because
it's
Allah,
a false analogy.
Yeah, Allah can abrogate his own revelations. Some random Muslim coming along centuries later cannot abrogate Allah's revelations. So if you, as a later Muslim, are contradicting and disobeying Allah, you don't say, therefore that's what Islam teaches. No, you'd be out of line with Islam. Likewise, if Jesus commands you not to try to subjugate the world in his name, if he says, my kingdom is not of this world, and you go ahead and do it and try to establish an earthly Christian kingdom that subjugates the world, you're out of line with what Jesus said. So that's it. You've
It's a false analogy, David,
yeah, of
because
course it is.
he's putting Muhammad in one side and Christians on another side. No, put Jesus. Was Jesus peaceful in the first year of his ministry, and then the second year of his ministry he switched to be violent? No. So you have a false analogy here. Where his disciples peaceful, then later on they turn to be violent? No.
Mm-hmm.
So this makes nonsense.
Yeah.
If you are talking about like centuries later, some Christians waged war and they committed violent acts. That's irrelevant to this case.
Yeah. And what you just pointed out with his disciples, it's actually the reverse. They were ready to fight. They were ready to fight for the Messiah. And if there was ever a time to fight for Jesus, right there, if there was ever a time to fight for Jesus, it's when the soldiers are coming to get him. And Jesus said, don't do it. Jesus said, don't fight for him like that. And so, and then what did you have? As Brother Rachid pointed out, did the disciples change their minds later? No. Did any Christians in the first century decide, hey, we have to go out and subjugate the world? No. Second century? No. Third century? No. In the fourth century, you started having the Roman Empire adopting Christianity, and you ended up with a kind of combination between the Roman Empire and Christianity. And then the Romans, who that's all they did was fight, they start fighting. And so this isn't terribly difficult to figure out here. Hey, shout out to Mucal for gifting 20 Apologetics Roadshow memberships. And all right, Brother Rachid, we ready to go? We ready to go on?
Yes. Yep.
All right. So next up, we have Surah 5, verse 51. I don't remember because we're gonna check out my list after this, but I don't remember if I included 551 because this was one of the verses that was on like my list of 13 or whatever it was, 12, 13, 14, whatever it was, and I had to cross a couple off. I don't remember if this is one of the ones I crossed off or not, so we'll have to check.
I believe it's worth to be on the 10th list.
Yep. So
it's a short list.
This is top 10. This is a short list of awful Quran verses.
Yeah.
All right,
Go
so what do we
ahead,
have here?
read it.
Okay, so I'll read it. I'll read this in both. O you who believe, take not the Jews and the Christians as awliya, friends, protectors, helpers, etc. They are but awliya to one another. And if any amongst you takes them as awliya, then surely he is one of them. Verily Allah guides not those people who are the zalamun, polytheists, wrongdoers, unjust. So that's the Hilali Khan over here in the Shakirs. O you who believe, do not take the Jews and the Christians for friends. They are friends of each other, and whoever amongst you takes them for a friend, then surely he is one of them. Surely Allah does not guide the unjust people.
I choose this verse as one of the worst 10 verses because it teaches hatred. And hatred is the root of terrorism. So if you hate certain people, the Quran just incites Muslims to hate Christians and Jews. Do not take them as awliya. Awliya means the translation of friend is really a closer translation than allies, because allies, it means just political allies. But friends is talking about individuals. He's not talking about countries or tribes. He's talking about each person. Do not take a Jew or a Christian as somebody close to you. Wali is somebody really close to you, is very close. Means a friend or somebody you made him so close to you. So if the Quran is saying to Muslims, do not take Christians and Jews as close friends, as somebody that is closer to you, he is putting hatred right there, the seeds of hatred. And I think because of this verse, we see Muslims through 1400 years, they are hating Christians and Jews They never loved Christians and Jews. Imagine if this verse never existed in the Quran. It could have been a better world today. But because Muhammad taught Muslims through the Quran to hate Jews and Christians, we still see that even in the 21st century. We see it wherever we go. They hate the West because the West represents Christianity. They hate Israel because Israel represents the Jews. And it will never end because that hatred became something sacred. When you put hatred as something sacred, you will never be able to break it. And that's what Muhammad did.
And this is another situation like what we were talking about earlier, where you have Muslims who are massively better than this, right? They do
Yes.
have Christian friends, right? I've had many Muslim friends, especially early on before they all started, before so many people started really hating me. I used to get along really well with Muslims. Nabil's my best friend in college. I had a good Muslim friend before that. I had good Muslim friends after that, and so on. So, and they will, if you bring this up to them, they will try to interpret it as something else when it doesn't really help. So they'll say, oh, you know, it's not friends, it's protectors, like right here in the Haleli Khan, it's protectors. Yeah. And so you can even say, fine, so don't take Jews and Christians as protectors. What, like police? Like like paramedics? So what are you saying? That we can't be trusted with those positions in a society? So Muslims have to be all the politicians, all the police force, all the lawyer, all that stuff, and Christians are just going to what? We're going to be street sweepers, right? We can't be trusted in any position.
It doesn't make sense in the context of Islam because imagine Muslims in Medina, they have a powerful army, they are subjugating other tribes. Why they will take Jews and Christians as protectors? Actually, Jews and Christians were weak. They didn't have an army. So how are they going to take them as protectors? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and it's also funny because elsewhere in the Quran it refers to the awliya of Allah, which is, and you look at it, it says the friends of Allah. But if you want to say the protectors of Allah, it's like, wait, now Allah has bodyguards to protect him from all the people who are going to come get him and so on. So yeah, but guys, this is just the Quran over and over again is just encouraging endless hostility between Muslims and non-Muslims. Fortunately, there are plenty of Muslims who don't follow this, but that's kind of the point. As Islam becomes more aggressive because it spreads, the more aggressive Muslims will come to the nicer Muslims and say, guys, you're completely out of line. You cannot have that Christian friend. You can't. It's right here. And guess what this is saying? If you, I mean, this is a straight up threat. If you decide to be friends with that Christian, you're a Christian. We're going to treat you like a Christian. And so we're going to treat you like an apostate for not obeying Allah here. Very dangerous stuff. But guys, this is exactly how this would play out. When you have Islam, Muslims make up 1 or 2% of the population. Yes, it will be peace and tolerance. And you'll look and you'll say, what do you mean? What do you? I have Muslim friends. I know my Muslim friends don't want to subjugate me. That can't be what Islam teaches. And later on down the road, once it gets to 10%, 20%, 30% of the population, the message is going to change. And even if your Muslim friends were completely sincere, they are going to be threatened with passages like this. You either stop being friendly with those Christians and those Jews, or we're going to treat you like a Jew or a Christian because you're not a Muslim anymore. Allah says it right here. Clear as day. All right, Brother Rachid, we ready to check out the next one?
Yes. Yep.
All right. And for the next one we have, and I have to say, this was on my list too, but when I put it on the list, I was thinking, it's interesting that this doesn't come up more than it does, because very common to bring up Surah 9, verse 29 and things like that. We use those passages all the time. But I realized I almost never use Surah 58, verse 22. I just used it in a video, I think like 2 days ago or something like this. So I just used it. But I was thinking about it then. I was like, why don't I use this verse more? Because this is really, really messed up. So good. It's good that you got it here. And I did. But that's the point. I put it on my list and I was thinking, wait, if this is one of the top, if I think this is one of the top 10 worst Quran verses, how come I almost never use this?
Well, it's time to put some highlight on this verse.
All right. So I'll read it. Let's see which one is shorter here. Okay. So the Shakir is shorter because it's a long verse, but I will read the Shakir that's on the right, ladies and gentlemen. You shall not find a people who believe in Allah and the latter day befriending those who act in opposition to Allah and his apostle, even though they were their own fathers or their sons or their brothers or their kinsfolk. These are they into whose hearts he has impressed faith and whom he has strengthened with an inspiration from him, and he will cause them to enter gardens beneath which rivers flow, abiding therein. Allah is well pleased with them, and they are well pleased with him. These are Allah's party. Now surely the party of Allah are the successful ones. And I'll just read the beginning, since that's the relevant part of the Hilalikan. You, O Muhammad, will not find any people who believe in Allah and the last day making friendship with those who oppose Allah and his messenger, even though they were their fathers or their sons or their brothers or their kindred. So here's another warning, ladies and gentlemen. If you are friends with people who oppose Allah and his messenger, then you're not a real Muslim, because it says right here, you will not find people who believe in Allah and the last day making friends with people who oppose Allah and his messenger.
Yeah. And the first Muslim community, the companions of Muhammad, applied this verse in their lives. Abu Bakr wanted to kill his son. Umar ibn al-Khattab wanted to, I think he killed one of his relatives. Ali ibn Abi Talib killed one of his relatives. And also companions, one killed his father. And so each one, either your son or your brother or your cousin or your father, you can kill them if they are opposing the way of Allah, means they are opposing Islam. So, and that's why, for example, in the hadith, we find the blind guy who killed his wife. He had a twin from her. And because she was criticizing Muhammad, and she was good to this blind man, he said to Muhammad, she was good to me. And she gave me two beautiful kids, twins. And he still killed her for the sake of Allah, for the sake of Muhammad. And Muhammad praised him. So that's the application of this verse. Even his wife, his beloved one, he was ready to sacrifice her for the sake of Muhammad. And this is a problem for me, because I know what I went through with my family, with my extended family, and fearing for my life in Morocco and all these things. It makes sense. Why some Muslims, I had even some Muslims who killed their one episode I remember that I did about a father killed his own daughter in Jordan because she converted to Christianity. And it makes sense, because you can kill even your son. This is in contradiction what Jesus taught. He never told us to kill our fathers or our sons if they convert to another religion. He just warned us of what's going to happen to us. A father will kill his son if he converted to Christianity. But he never ordered us to do the same. And here the Quran is ordering people to hate their own sons, their own fathers, their own brothers, who are opposing them in religion. I find it horrible. It's one of the worst verses you can teach, and I think it created a lot of suffering through history.
Yes, absolutely. And guys, just so think about this, guys. My sons, I have a bunch of sons. If my sons were to convert to Islam, I would still love my sons. If my sons transitioned to being girls or something like that, I would still love my sons. You love your kids, you love your family. You can disagree with what they've done, but at the end of the day, you're supposed to love your family. Islam says no, not if they are not on board with Allah and Muhammad. It says even if they're fathers or sons or brothers or their kindred. And not just that, it's you can't. You're not allowed. So if you're a Muslim and your son says, you know what, I don't really believe in Muhammad anymore. I think he's a false prophet. You now can no longer love your son. You can't do it. And you have to hate and despise him and long for the day when you can actually kill him in battle.
Yep.
Rough stuff. Rough stuff. This is wild, wild stuff. All right, so just wanted to do one quick question here from Ice Cream Sword. Ice Cream Sword said, Ibn Waraq said that some parts of Surah 9 were Meccan and some Medinan. I know Al-Tabari says that 929 was after Arabia was subjugated, but is there a good source on the rest of the chronology? There's no dispute about Surah 9, verse 29. And I mean, it might be a little wiggle room as far as exactly when it was revealed, as far as you could say a couple months this way or a couple months that way or something like that. But there's no dispute that these are some of the final marching orders of the Quran, 9:5 and 9:29.
Yeah.
You can look at Ibn Kathir again in the Battles of the Prophet or in his Sirah. He talks about this in reference to what sent Muhammad to the Battle of Tabuk. So, in other words, there's no way this is Meccan. Anything that's talking about going out and fighting the unbelievers and subjugating them and so on, that's not a Meccan passage.
Yeah. And if you find like some verse there that probably was Meccan in chapter 9, which is unlikely, even if you find one, it's just because when they were gathering the Quran, some verses they were just they didn't know where to put them, so they put them in certain chapters. And that's why we don't have something reliable that can tell us exactly the chronology of all the verses in the Quran. Some verses you would not be able to put them in a period or another, but others you can clearly put them, like David said, 9:5, 9:29. You can clearly put them at the end of the Medinian period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that would be the idea. Ice Cream Sword is that if someone wants to argue that certain verses are from the Meccan period, that would be just, hey, we need a place to put this at some point. But as far as like the things that are talking about going out and waging battles and so on, no disputing that. So definitely the bulk of Surah 9 is towards the end of Muhammad's career as the most obvious false prophet in history. Anyway, hope that helps. All right, Brother Rachid, we ready to jump into the next verse?
533.
And here we go. Surah 5, verse 33 of the Quran. And I did not include this one.
Why? I need to ask you one. Indeed, the penalty for those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive upon earth to cause corruption is none but they be killed or crucified, or that their hands and feet be cut off from opposite sides, or that they be exiled from the land. And I find this is a disturbing one too, because imagine crucifixion. Crucifixion is one of the most horrible punishments that were invented by humans. And Muhammad made it a law for a law of Allah, that people, imagine, Muslims are not crucifying people now, not because, and actually ISIS did, but I mean majority of Muslim countries are not crucifying people, not because they don't believe in crucifixion, in crucifying people. They just because the world will be horrified by these things. It's like stoning. They didn't stop stoning because they believe it's not revealed by Allah, but because the whole international community was against them and was looking at them and saying, what is this? Why you are doing this in the 20th century? You need to stop these things, otherwise you would not be member of the international community and you will be isolated. So they were shunned, they were embarrassed, and actually removed it from their penal codes. Otherwise you will still see Saudi Arabia stoning people and Saudi Arabia crucifying people, but they don't do it anymore because it's not a good image in front of other countries.
Yeah, and I have to say the main reason I didn't have this on my list is I just forgot about it.
Okay, I accept that.
Yeah.
But
So, but
crucifixion, definitely. Imagine like
yeah.
somebody saying you have to crucify, no matter what
Mhm.
he did. I mean, imagine you crucify a person in public places,
Yeah.
and it's like, I mean,
Yeah.
give me a break if this is Sharia that needs to be applied today.
Yeah. And there's another thing that's especially bad and dangerous about this. So this is one of the verses that, I mean, this is one of the verses in the Quran that I use most frequently, and it's mainly because so many people who want to claim that Islam is peaceful quote Surah 5, verse 32. And this became, I mean, politicians were quoting it for years. I saw this on CNN all the time. Barack Obama quoted Surah 5, verse 32 after a terrorist attack. But the claim is that Surah 5, verse 32, they never quote the entire verse. They would always just say, according to the
Yeah,
Quran, if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. Therefore, when ISIS
yeah.
kills people, they're violating the Quran. The Quran doesn't allow you to kill. Yay! When if you actually read it, it's that Allah revealed this to the children of Israel. It's a quote from the Talmud, Mishnah Sanhedrin. And
Yeah.
then, but the next verse, Surah 533, is the command for Muslims, and they never quoted this. But
Yeah.
fortunately, you don't see many people quoting 532 anymore, because now every time someone quotes 532, everyone starts instantly quoting
I still
533.
see it, David. I
Yeah, you
saw it
do?
on Twitter.
Oh
I saw it
man.
on X like just 2 days ago.
Oh man. So there's some people who haven't caught on. So guys, whenever someone quotes Surah 5 verse 32, first thing you do, ask them to quote the entire verse. That's when they'll have to include children of Israel. And then ask them to quote the very next verse, because if killing isn't allowed according to Surah 532 and you think that applies to Muslims, what do you do with the very next verse, 533? But the other thing that's really especially horrible and awful and dangerous about this is that that these penalties are the recompense for waging war against Allah and His Messenger and doing
Yeah,
mischief in the land, right? How do you
and
wage
that's
war? Oh, go ahead.
that can be interpreted
That's the point.
anything.
Absolutely anything, right? Yeah, so guys,
Yeah,
there are Muslims who, when you bring up 533, they'll go, no, it's talking about war. It says wage war. Yeah, how do you wage war against Allah? How are we waging war against Allah? Are you sending a battle out to fight against Allah? Read your commentaries opposing Allah. Even according to Ibn Kathir, even unbelief is opposing Allah, is waging war against Allah. So anything you're
David,
doing,
David, you are waging war against Allah in every video.
yeah, right now we are waging war against Allah according to Islam and according to the commentaries. And um, lots of what we do in life would be qualified as waging war against Allah. So don't say, "Oh, this is talking about battles." No, it's not. And you can even see it for doing mischief in the land.
Yeah,
Doing
what's
mischief in the land.
mischief?
That's the problem. In fact, that's my biggest problem with this, Rashid. If mischief were clearly defined and it said that, oh, if someone's a terrorist and kills a bunch of people, then you're going to have all these horrible punishments. That would be one thing. But it's not. It's just mischief in the land or corruption in the land. And to this day, you'll see Muslim countries when they don't have, like if this happens to Christians in Iran, when the government arrests them and throws them in prison, it charges them with spreading mischief in the land.
Yeah,
It's applying 533. When Ali Dawah threatened the apostate prophet and said that he would be executed in an Islamic state, he said, because you'd be causing corruption in the land. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
you've got Muslim scholars, Muslim Dawah clowns, all these guys. They understand this is a call for violence. And that, guys, think about this. Once you have accepted the idea that you can kill, crucify, or chop people up for the vague crime of making mischief in the land, you can kill people for almost anything. You say, hey, I don't like what
Yeah.
you said. I don't like what you said. You're causing mischief. I don't like the idea you just shared. You're causing mischief. I don't like what you said on Twitter. You're causing mischief in the land. I have to kill you and crucify you. Now, this is very, very dangerous here. And it's still
And
having people killed.
look at the punishment. The goal is not to stop any crime. The goal is actually to torture people, because cutting hands and feet from opposite sides and letting people die slowly and also crucifying them, letting them die slowly. What's the purpose of that? And actually, now countries, even those who have death penalties, they are looking for the ways that will not torture people, just like it will end their lives, but in the most peaceful way possible, so they can go without being tortured, because torture itself is a horrible thing. But Islam teaches torture. It's like somebody is pleased to see people suffer for the longest time possible. And this is not really a law. This is somebody sick, and is mentally sick. And I think Muhammad was mentally sick.
Yeah, definitely something wrong with that dude. No question there.
Yeah.
um, hang on. Where did this comment go? I just saw one by Ibrahim that I wanted to share because it's totally hilarious. Oh yeah, here we go. Ibrahim says, Allah says, do lie, do not do bad, do not kill anyone. Well, you're right about the do lie part, Ibrahim. Allah definitely encourages lying. Remember, according to Muhammad, war is deceit. And in fact, one of the verses on my list is going to involve lying. But glad you admitted that. But as far as do not do bad and do not kill anyone, do not kill anyone. Are you joking, Ibrahim?
Yeah.
They slay and are slain. It's literally talking about killing someone. So Ibrahim just declared himself to be a prophet. Ibrahim, seriously, I hope you're not in a Muslim country, because if you go around treating the Quran the way you do in this chat section, they'd have a serious problem with you, thinking you could just contradict Allah, say the exact opposite of what He says, and that you'll be fine. Very dangerous. Stay safe. In fact, they would even charge you with what? They would charge you with making mischief in the land. They would charge you with making mischief for spreading these dumb ideas. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, be careful. Be careful. Try to live in a Western nation if you're going to say these things, because it's not safe for you in a Muslim country saying these things about Allah and the Quran. All right, Brother Rashid, we ready to go on?
Yep. The other one is closer to it. That's why
Yep.
I added it.
Yep. 538. This was not on my list, but explain why it's on yours. You want me to read it, or you want to read it?
Yeah, go ahead, read it.
Okay, so I'll read the Shakir on the right-hand side. And as for the man who steals and the woman who steals, cut off their hands as a punishment for what they have earned. An exemplary punishment from Allah, and Allah is mighty wise. So man steals, woman steals, chop off their hands as punishment.
The end of the verse says, Allah is mighty and is wise. See how He came up with the best solution of for stealing is you cut the hands. So instead of dealing with this problem and trying to tackle it from social point of view, and from other other solutions, like Western countries, now nobody cuts your hand, you go to jail for that. So, and even in Muslim countries now, they know it's not a good idea to cut the hands of people, so they are putting them in jail. In the Middle East too, even in Saudi Arabia and other places, if you steal, you just go to jail. Imagine anybody who steals will have his hand cut. So what good to society we will do? We will just have a bunch of people who have hands cut. And what production? How are we? I mean, also harming them in their body. If they see, sometimes people do not have money and they steal. Sometimes they have good reasons. I'm not encouraging stealing, but they have like some justification, and you will feel sympathy to them, because if they had a better source of income. I'm not saying like everybody's like that, but sometimes
Yeah,
you see.
yeah,
Yeah.
so just to be clear, everyone, you're drawing a distinction here, because some thief is just, that's what he does for, like, that's how he makes a living. He goes around stealing other people's stuff. You're pointing out in a
Yeah.
different situation, wait a minute, I have no money, my kid is hungry, I have no food, and I'm going to go
Yeah.
steal something from a store to buy my kid some food. You're saying we would kind of, most people would be kind of sympathetic, saying, okay, I don't approve
Yeah.
of you stealing, but I at least understand you're not doing it because you're this evil, horrible person who just loves to
Yeah.
take other people's stuff. You're doing it because you had no other way of feeding your kid right now, and that's why you did it.
Yes. Yes, and you will probably find them a job and try to help them instead of cutting their hands. And imagine you get caught in a very I think I read in one of the hadiths you can be it can be like even an egg. Imagine stealing an egg and losing your hand just for an egg. How is that justice? I just want to understand how Allah is wise here. He's the dumbest being for doing a law like this, because I know Western laws are much better now than this law.
Yeah, and even for people wanted to say, oh, but they didn't have like jails and prisons like they do now, so they had to do other things. The other thing you were pointing out is this is something that affects a person's ability to even earn a living. So if the punishment had instead been, in other words, if you said, okay, let's suppose it's a place they don't have any jails, they don't have any prisons, they don't have normal courts and so on, so you can't punish him the way we would punish someone today. This would still be different if you'd said, okay, give him a few whacks with a whip or something like that. It would still be a different. You're not destroying his ability to earn a living. When you start chopping people's hands off, this was already a person who was stealing. Now how's he going to work now? How is this guy going to work? So you made it more difficult for him to earn a living. How's he going to function now?
And imagine now, ISIS did that actually. If you have seen their videos, they did that in several videos, and they showed it, and they were proud. They were proud doing it. And imagine now, those Dawa guys, they are saying Western society is really collapsing. Sharia is the solution for the West. Imagine now in squares in London, you will have people who have their hands in front of everybody, bring him, put his hand there, and the Dawa guys are cutting hands there. See, this is the most this is the most just law on earth that have ever been revealed, and this is the right thing to do. And crucifying people in London, that's what they are trying to bring to us, and they think that's the solution for Western society. I think the most horrible thing that can happen to humanity to have these laws back applied in any country, actually.
Yeah, and Brother Rachid, you were bringing up something earlier that's very important, that the reason the Muslim world stopped with certain punishments was not because they decided, oh, these are just backwards and barbaric, we're living in a new world. It was because they were being pressured by Western nations. As Islam grows and expands, the Muslim world will care less and less what the non-Muslim world thinks. In other words, when they were changing their laws, Western nations were just massively more powerful and able to impose Western ideas onto the Muslim world by saying, "Hey, you're not going to do that. You can't be part of this organization. We can't have these alliances and these agreements and these trade agreements if you're sitting there and you've got slaves." That's how slavery was abolished in lots of Muslim countries and so on. And so, same thing with stoning as a punishment, chopping off hands as punishments, and so on. The Muslim nations that changed these penalties, it wasn't because they thought, oh, these are wrong. It's, oh, we're in a different world now and we have other things that we want to accomplish and we can't do these things right now. Guess what? As Islam expands and has more and more contempt for the West, as the West weakens and divides, you're going to have these things make a comeback. They're totally going to make a comeback. And they'll start imposing, and we're already seeing it. We're already seeing it in places like Afghanistan and so on. These things making a comeback. All right, Brother Rachid, we ready to continue?
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
All right, and next up we have Surah 434, which is, I'm pleased to say, on my list here.
Hey, it was. Yay. That's good. Why are you putting it on your list?
This one, I mean, here you're talking about your wife, man. This is your wife. This is how you're going to treat your wife. I mean, we've already seen the solution for everything in Islam is violence.
Oh, you mean your wives?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wives. This is about your wives. But yeah, so we've already seen, that the solution for everything that can possibly go wrong in Islam is some form of violence. You chop off hands, you kill people, you crucify them. It's always violence. And then we saw 58:22 that even if your own father, your own son, your own daughter, whoever it happens to be, if that person is not on board with Muhammad, is actually opposed to Muhammad and his teachings and Sharia, you can't love that father or son or daughter or whoever. You can't love that person. And here this is just, you've got a Muslim wife. So you're a Muslim, you've got Muslim wives, and this is how you treat them. But why is this on your list?
Oh, yeah, for the same reason. How many women were beaten by their husbands in the Muslim world because of this verse? Imagine like how many through history, through 1400 years. When I was putting it, I was thinking how many women suffered just because Allah didn't have a better idea just to reveal this. Why he didn't gave another solution? Dribuhunna, beat them. And actually, Muslims are so embarrassed that they are in their translation trying to water it down. Oh, beat them lightly. Where does it say lightly in the Arabic origin?
Yeah,
It
let me go
doesn't
down.
say it anywhere.
Yeah, let me show, because I think Hilali Khan does this, and it's not on the screen yet. 434 down to, and but beat them lightly if it is useful. It says it right there. Beat them lightly.
If it
Puts
is
in
useful, all of
if
that
it's
is
useful.
added.
Yeah, that's added, guys. What's in parentheses here is added. Oh, by the way, should I go ahead and read the verse here?
Yeah, please.
All right, I'll read the one on the right here. That's the Shakir. Men are the maintainers of women because Allah has made some of them to excel others and because they spend out of their property. The good women are therefore obedient, guarding the unseen as Allah has guarded. And as to those on whose part you fear desertion, you might want to comment on the desertion there, because that gets translated as rebellion, arrogance, all kinds of things. But it says
it's like mischief.
Yeah.
It's like,
interesting. It could be anything.
It can be anything, because if she says no, I can't do sex tonight. Well, I fear desertion. Come here. A couple of punches and that's it.
Yeah, and let's see, how does Hilali Khan translate? As to those women on whose part you see ill conduct. So there it just says any sort of ill conduct. So yeah, it would be like mischief, anything you don't like. But it says, as to the Shakir translation, as to those on whose part you fear desertion, admonish them.
And David, let me stop you right there. You just fear desertion.
Yeah.
They didn't do it yet.
Yeah, that's my problem. That's my problem with the Hilali Khan. It says, those on whose, as to those women on whose part you see ill conduct. Everything else is, no, it's fear. You fear desertion. You fear arrogance. You fear and that's, me and AP were just talking about this, how really, really awful and dangerous that is, because it's not saying here is something that your wife has been publicly exposed for doing. It's known. It's out there. It's something she's done. It's just you fear arrogance on her part. She didn't have to do anything. You just say, you know what? I think my wife's going to become arrogant if I don't go over here and beat some sense into her.
Yeah.
And you're entirely justified according to this verse. And we even see that. That's connected to Muhammad in the hadith saying a man will not be asked as to why he beat his wife. Why? Yeah. Because it's not about anything she's done. It's not a matter for anyone else. It's just about how he feels about her. And if it's about if his feelings are the justification for why he can beat her, then you have no business. You're not in control of his feelings and you don't know what his feelings are. Shut up.
And I shared when I was on PBD, I shared that my dad beat my mom, and they were like, he has issues. Well, I mean, if I have issues, who did those issues? It's Allah who did them. If you think I have issues,
yeah,
I asked my mom's still alive. I asked her a few times, what do you think of this verse, because it affected you personally, And she said, I can't accept that Allah allows men to do this. Why? I mean, there is no explanation to this. And she just said it nicely. She said, this can't be from Allah to allow men just to beat their wives. That's not really something revealed from Allah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That is rough stuff.
She
And
couldn't accept it. Imagine like you are the person who is receiving this. It's not like it's good for men. They read it. Some men they say, yeah, it's good for
yeah,
me. But
it is. You
imagine
can
a
be
woman.
strong. Mm-hmm.
Imagine a woman have been beaten by her husband. How is she going to pray with this verse? Tell me. Like if she's praying to Allah, is she going to read this verse?
Yeah, I mean, recite this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
she
we
gonna be
have to
reciting.
recite some verses during
Mm-hmm.
prayer. Would a woman that was violently beaten by her husband read this in her prayer?
That would be pretty rough. Pretty rough stuff. Here you have Ilm on the screen says, but Muhammad never struck any of his wives. You do have that claim, but that's contradictory because you
Well, he
also
did actually.
yeah no.
He
That's
did.
why I said it's contradictory.
Aisha.
So yeah, you have a hadith saying Muhammad never struck his wives, but then you have in Sahih Muslim where Muhammad Aisha said he struck me in my chest, which caused me pain. So Marek
Yeah.
even responded and said no, Muhammad struck Aisha. So sorry, Ilm. And by the way, Ilm, why would that be a problem? Why would you think it's good that Muhammad never struck his wives? In other words, if you go with that hadith and you ignore the hadiths that say that Aisha got hit by Muhammad, why would you think it's good that he never struck his wives? If Allah is saying, "Hey, you have to beat your wives if you fear ill conduct for them, or if you fear arrogance or any of these other things." I mean, look, Muhammad's wives were always messing with him. They were always stirring up drama. He should have, according to Allah, he should have been beating the brakes off them all the time, and he didn't. So Muhammad was actually in disobedience to Allah. He wasn't a good Muslim.
Well, he just had better ethics than Allah.
Yep. Yeah. So, and matter of fact, that even ties into the historical background of this verse. And if you go to the Asbab al-Nuzul, that a woman's brought by her father to Muhammad because her husband had slapped her in the face, and they just wanted retaliation. So I guess it wouldn't make sense for the woman to smack him back. So maybe one of the guys in her family was gonna slap the husband for hitting her. So he wanted retaliation. Then Muhammad said, "Yeah, go get retaliation." So they start leaving, and then I have received a revelation. And it's Surah 4, verse 34. And he says, I wanted one thing, but Allah wanted something else. So Muhammad was actually nicer to women than Allah. And Muhammad said, yeah, I don't want men beating their wives. And Allah says, oh, they're going to beat their wives. All right.
Yeah. The funny thing, Muslims, they say, well, Islam really values women. And
Yeah.
I say, how?
As property.
Well, he named the whole chapter.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He named the whole chapter Al-Nisa, women.
Yeah.
And I say, well, ironically, that's where they are. The husbands are ordered to beat their wives, so to beat women. So how is that valuing women? Giving them dignity, actually, they say. They give them dignity. Islam gave women dignity. How is that giving them dignity if this same chapter ordered Muslims to beat their wives?
Yeah. Pretty rough. Pretty rough. So again, guys, this is men can beat women. Men can beat their own wives into submission for almost any reason, anything that pops into the guy's head, because it's just about whether he fears something. And it's not like this doesn't get applied. Look at statistics on abuse of women. Researchers actually call Arab culture, they call it the culture of the electric cord, because they say that's the most common thing that husbands use to beat their wives. They grab an electric cord from something and start beating their wives with it. And so, but keep in mind, this is all from Allah. It's all from Allah. And I hope that lots of people have the same reaction that Rashid's mom has, and just there's no way how's this from God? How's this from God? All right, Brother Rachid, we got the last one. We got the last one up
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Not on my list. Not on my list. But go ahead and break this down.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it or?
Yeah, go ahead. I have a cough. I have a bad cough that never stopped. So I.
Oh, yeah. And if you fear, so Surah 4, verse 3, ladies and gentlemen, and if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry other women of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with them, then only one, or the captives and slaves that your right hands possess, that is nearer to prevent you from doing injustice.
Yeah, I did it because of the captives that your right hands possess.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe this verse gives Muslims to have sex with captives that they bring from war, just as sex slaves, like Muhammad did with Safiya and with Rihanna, and what Muslims did with the Berbers, they did with other people from around the world. They took their daughters as captives, and actually they sold them as sex slaves. And we have seen what ISIS did to the Yazidi girls. It's the same thing that happened during Muhammad's time and through the history of Islam. If you think how many women suffered because of this, that's why it qualifies to be on the short list of the 10 worst verses in the Quran. Imagine how many women were sold as sex slaves because of these verses and similar verses. How many they had sex against their will, and it was okay for Muslims. They did it with their consciousness, not giving them, even not objecting because Allah says so, not even feeling guilty for a single night. And imagine what happened. Imagine your own daughter went through this, or your own sister went through this. So we are not talking 10 or 20 or 100, we are talking millions through history. So I believe it qualifies to be one of the worst verses in the Quran.
Yeah, and there are several that are along these same lines. So if anyone wants to read about the passages about Muslim men being allowed to rape their captives and so on, Surah 70, 22 to 30, Surah 23, 5 to 6. Surah 424 is actually in the same passage. There you have to actually read the historical background, because it says, also prohibited are women already married, save those whom your right hands possess. So there, in Surah 4, verse 24, it's specifically about a situation where the Muslims captured the husbands and the wives. They captured wives with their husbands. And it says they were reluctant to have sex with the women because their husbands were around. So they were worried that they're actually committing adultery. And that's when 424 is revealed and said, no, actually, you're okay. If you've captured them, then even though they're married, you can do what you want with them. So pretty crazy, messed up stuff here in the Muslim sources. So this has led to Surah 4, verse 34 has led to endless suffering for Muslim women because they're being beaten. And Surah 4, verse 3 and 24 and so on have led to endless suffering for non-Muslim women because they're being treated as sex slaves. And pretty wild. So I think this is connected to the grooming gangs in the UK, Brother Rachid. That when they're taking these young girls and turning them into basically sex slaves and so on, I think it's the understanding that this is how we're supposed to be treating them if we conquered them in battle. We're not conquering them in battle, but we can go around and still take them because these guys won't stop us. And
yeah, they can conquer them in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so, in other words, guys, this is them imposing Sharia little by little, and that's actually part of it. People who are horrified by that, well, welcome to Sharia. All right, so that's Brother Rachid's top 10 list. We'll kind of zoom. We got a couple super chats real quick, and then we'll kind of zoom through mine because we've been going almost 2 hours now. So we'll just kind of zoom through mine. I'll point out where we had the same ones, and I'll point out the ones where I had something different, and I'll just run down the list. Nicholas DeCento, Comedy versus Islam. God bless you both. We'll check it out. Robin Hood says, loving the show. D Wood, thanks for introducing me to Brother Rachid. Much respect to both. Loved it when Brother Rachid started speaking in tongues, Arabic. Yeah, always good when Brother Rachid is here, and then some Muslim brings up, oh, but you got to know Arabic. That's just hilarious.
Yeah.
In other words, Ibrahim, Rashid would run circles around you in Arabic. My sister recently converted to Islam. It's all about social justice, of course. Yeah, it's hilarious how you have these people thinking they're social justice warriors for converting to Islam, and they know absolutely nothing about it. Your channel has been a great resource. I hope I can eventually convince her that Muhammad is the most obvious false prophet ever. Yeah, this is a good place to learn what's in the passages. And I have a video, Nicholas. It's titled How to Share Unpleasant Facts with Pleasant Muslims. It's about how to get some of the disturbing material across in a way where you're trying to keep the conversation going and not like drive the person away and so on. So I checked that out and get some information down, and you have endless material to go up to your sister and say, hey, you're all about social justice. What do you think about this? Beating women into submission. Hey, you're all about social justice. What do you think about Muhammad saying that he was going to expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and not leave any but Muslims? So he didn't want a diverse society. He's against diversity. So are you against diversity? And there's endless material for you to go there. All right, now let's zoom through my list. Let me pull up D Wood's list here. Some of the same stuff, some of it different.
Let's see.
Let's see what I got here. And here we go. So here's my list. I put Surah 3, verse 28. These I'll just go through in order. I'll just go through in order of the Quran. But 328. I'll read the Shakir here. No, matter of fact, I'll read the Halali Khan because we have the awliya here. Let not the believers take the disbelievers as awliya. Shakir says unbelievers for friends. Instead of the believers, and whoever does that will never be helped by Allah in any way except if you indeed fear a danger from them. And Allah warns you against himself, and to Allah is the final return. I included this verse because
this is like 551.
Exactly. I had I said that I had like 12 or 13 verses and then I had to cut off a couple. I had this and 551. I took out 551 because I had this one on it. So I didn't need two saying the same thing. But I used this one because this is in the commentaries, this is connected to Taqiyya, because notice it's do not take these people as friends. Don't take unbelievers as friends, except if you indeed fear a danger from them.
Yeah.
So these are the hadiths where, like Abu ad-Darda says, we smile in their faces while cursing them in our hearts.
Yep. Yeah.
And so the idea,
because it combines both hating the kuffar, the infidels, and at the same time you can lie to them and use taqiyya.
Yeah. So the idea here is, contrary to no, Ibrahim says that Allah says do lie. So Ibrahim's on the same page here. But so guys, keep in mind what this is saying.
We love you, Ibrahim.
Yeah. So this is saying don't be friends with the unbelievers unless you fear danger from them. In other words, if you have the power and the ability, then you do not be friends with these guys. But if they're significantly more powerful than you, to where you telling them, hey, we're going to subjugate the world, we're going to impose Islam on you, that would actually be a danger to you, then you can be friends with them outwardly. That's what Ibn Kathir's commentary says. You can show friendship outwardly, never inwardly. So wild stuff. So I put 328 there, 434. We both had that.
Yeah.
465. It's a completely different reason, but I thought I was really, really bothered by 465. So, but this isn't a command saying go out and subjugate and so on. I think it's extremely bad in a different way. But this 465 says, but no, by your Lord, they can have no faith until they make you, O Muhammad, judge in all disputes between them and find in themselves no resistance against your decisions and accept them with full submission. So I thought this was bad because it just opens the door for all the messed up bad stuff in the hadith. It's saying you can't have any resistance against Muhammad's decisions. If you do, you're not a real Muslim. So if Muhammad had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl, you can't have any resistance in yourself against having sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. If Muhammad says he's been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah and he's the messenger, you can't have any resistance against that. If you do, you're not a real Muslim. So that bothered.
No objection.
Yeah, that's what bothered me about 465. 929.
That's fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough.
929 we both had. Then I wasn't sure whether to say 33.4 or 33.5. One would be kind of necessary for the context. So I count this as one because either one you pick, I would say you got to read the other one to get the context. But this passage here is, ladies and gentlemen, this is Allah abolishing adoption in Islam. So this has affected the treatment of orphans. Keep in mind, in Islam, you can take care of an orphan. You can feed an orphan. That's a good deed in Islam. You don't practice adoption. That orphan does not become part of your family.
Yeah.
And the reason I thought this was especially bad was two main reasons. One, adoption is one of the most humane practices ever by human beings. You have a kid, his parents were killed or his parents abandoned him or something, and you say, you will be part of my family. You'll be part of my family. Your family abandoned you. You're going to be part of my family. You're going to take my name and you're going to be treated exactly as I treat one of my sons. Very, very amazing practice. Muhammad did that practice. Muhammad adopted a son. Sadly, Muhammad eventually wanted to have sex with that adopted son's wife. And so in order to justify that, Allah says that he has to abolish adoption because people were accusing Muhammad of incest. It's like, hey, that's your adopted son's wife. That's like your own son. And so Allah revealed, Allah has not put for any man two hearts inside of his body. Neither has he made your wives whom you declare to be like your mother's backs, your real mothers. This is confusing. I don't want to spend time breaking it down. They had a saying, may you be like my mother's back if you wanted nothing to do with her and so on. And he's pointing out, if you say, hey, may you be like my mother's back, meaning you wouldn't approach for sex or something like that, then they say, well, you're not saying she's your real mother. So Muhammad's actually comparing that to adoption, saying, oh, well, you say he's my son. You're not really saying he's your son and so on. And then you have, nor has he made your adopted sons your real sons. That is but your saying with your mouths. But Allah says the truth and he guides to the right way. And then the next verse, call them your adopted sons, by the names of their fathers. That is more just with Allah. In other words, you don't adopt them as part of your family, taking on your family name. No, you are this other family, this family that abandoned you or sold you or anything or something like that. So they don't, in other words, guys, you can take care of an orphan. You cannot adopt them. There is no more adoption as far as becoming part of your family. And I think that's really bad. 4829, I think you will agree this could have been on. This would be on the top 20.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 4829. So Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and those who are with him are severe against disbelievers and merciful among themselves. You're severe against non-Muslims, merciful only towards your fellow Muslims. That's pretty self-explanatory. Would also connect to a lot of other passages that we've been going through where you find something similar.
And we had this together.
Yeah, we both put 5822. Again, this was weird to me because I just thought, hey, I just put this in a video. Why don't we quote this more? It's kind of pretty important. So it's good that we both had that on the list. Everyone jot down 5822 and learn that verse. 65. This is why I think this should have been on your list. I know you had a pretty tight list. 65.4, and those of your women as have passed the age of monthly courses, for them the prescribed period, if you have doubts about their periods, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, i.e. they're still immature, their prescribed period is 3 months likewise, except in case of death. So the historical background here, everyone, is Allah had already revealed in the Quran that if you're going to divorce a woman, she has to wait 3 monthly menstrual cycles before she can marry another man. And that's just so that there's no confusion about any children or anything like that. No confusion. Eventually, objections were raised to Muhammad. So the question was, okay, you said 3 monthly menstrual cycles if we divorce a wife, before she can marry another man. What about women and girls who don't have a monthly menstrual cycle for some reason? And you had 3 categories of women who don't have wives who might not have a monthly menstrual cycle for some other reason. And the reasons were she could be too old, so she's gone through menopause. She could be too young, she's prepubescent, or she could be pregnant. And so 65.4 is a response to those. And there you have it right in the middle. And for those who have no courses, no monthly menstrual cycle, and they add the correct commentary, i.e. they're still immature, meaning they're prepubescent.
Yeah.
I.e. they're still immature. Their prescribed period is 3 months, likewise. In other words, you don't wait 3 monthly menstrual cycles because they're too young for a monthly menstrual cycle. Instead, just wait 3 months. And keep in mind what that's saying. You've married a girl, prepubescent girl, had sex with her, and you're going to divorce her. How long before this prepubescent girl can get married to another guy who's going to have sex with her? Well, she has to wait 3 months. 3 months. And so the Quran is talking about all of this in the context of prepubescent girls.
Unfortunately, there are so many girls still suffering from this, especially in the Arab world, in Yemen and some places.
Yeah. And it's one of the main talking points in Dawah right now. All these guys.
They like it.
Daniel Hakikachu, Ali Dawah, Muhammad Hijab, Sneeko, all these guys are running around as one of their main talking points is, we have to be able to marry children. I mean, think about this. You say 18. Why? Why would it have to be 18? Why not much younger? And Daniel Hakikachu says it doesn't matter if she's a 4-year-old. It doesn't matter if she's a 4-year-old. And so, ideas have consequences. If these guys are ever successful, there are real little girls who are going to be on the receiving end of these verses. Bad stuff. And then I wasn't sure whether to go 61:1 or 2, so I just included them both for context. Oh, Prophet, why do you ban for yourself that which Allah has made lawful to you, seeking to please your wives? And Allah is oft forgiving, most merciful. Allah has already ordained for you.
Come on. Why do you put this in the worst list?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Allah has already ordained for you, O men, the dissolution of your oaths, and Allah is your Lord, Master, Protector, and so on. I put this on there because of what it's actually saying about oaths and being able to break them and in the context of your own wives. So guys, the historical background here is Muhammad got caught having sex with his slave girl. We know he was allowed to do that. That's part of, he's allowed to have sex with his captives. But he got caught doing it in his wife Hafsa's bed. So Hafsa goes out. She's running some errands. Muhammad runs. His slave girl's out there. He's like, wait a minute, Hafsa's out. Let me run into her house and her bed. So he goes into Hafsa's house, into her room, into her bed, and takes his slave girl, has sex with his slave girl in his wife Hafsa's bed. Hafsa comes home early, finds out. She tells Muhammad's other wives. They're all flipping out. Muhammad says, okay, I swear I won't touch her again. I won't touch this slave girl again. And that calmed Muhammad's wives down. And then Allah comes out and says, Allah has, in verse 2 there, Allah has already ordained for you the dissolution of your oaths. So,
I mean, think about it, David. This didn't hurt people through history. It's just Muhammad was trying to save his butt. So I'm not going to put it in the worst.
Well, I'm thinking of it. I'm thinking of this in a completely different context. I'm thinking of this in terms of, so Muhammad swears, I swear by the great God Allah, I will never have sex with that woman again. And then Allah responds, why did you ban for yourself that which Allah has made lawful to you? In other words, he says, I didn't tell you to make that oath. Therefore, you have no obligation to keep your oath. Yeah, guys, keep in mind.
Isn't Allah there to please Muhammad?
Absolutely. But look at verse 2. Allah has already ordained for you, O men. He's talking about men in general, the dissolution of your oaths. In other words, but think about the reason. I'm disturbed by the reasoning, and it's similar to Surah 33, 4-5, that because Muhammad is trying to justify something for himself, he does something that affects everyone else. So he has to defend taking the wife of his own adopted son. But in order to justify himself, he affects all other people for all times, namely no more adoption in Islam. And as far as this verse goes, I mean, this little passage here, it's, hey, Muhammad, since Allah didn't command you to make that oath, you can go ahead and break it, no problem. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
The vast majority of oaths that have ever been uttered were not ordered by God. God didn't. In other words, there's no oath that I've ever uttered that God ordered me to break, that God ordered me to keep, and therefore, I would be able to break it according to this. I can say, oh yeah, I swear, oh wife, I will not cheat on you with that woman again. And then she comes back, oh, you're cheating again. I say, well, God didn't tell me to make that oath, and therefore I can break it. That's insane. There's like no concept of moral integrity. You can lie. You can make an oath. You can break it. You can make an oath. You can break it. What did Jesus say? Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. And here it's no. You can make the oath, and then you can come back and just break it. So I don't like that and the impact that it has had. And then of course,
I see your reasoning.
Yeah, and then again, I mean. So I agree with you that, it's debatable whether that should be on a top 10 list. Top 20 list, I would definitely have that on there. But I would have 98 verse 6 on my top 10 list. Verily, those who disbelieve in the religion of Islam, the Quran, and Prophet Muhammad from among the people of the scripture, Jews and Christians, and al-mushrikun will abide in the fire of hell. They are the worst of creatures. They are the worst of creatures. So Jews and Christians and al-mushrikun, so those are like people who associate partners with Allah, will all abide in the fire of hell. We're the worst of creatures. We're lower than dogs. We're lower than cattle. We're just really, really bad. And I think this is the other thing that's connected to what's going on.
Yeah, the reasoning behind it, dogs are not worshiping three gods like Christians. So that's the reasoning behind it. So the Jews are worse and the Christians are worse than dogs because dogs are not polytheists.
Yep. Yeah, so we're all the worst of creatures. And Brother Rachid, I think this is the other thing that's actually connected to the mindset of the grooming gangs. So on the one hand, we're allowed to take non-Muslims as sex slaves, and that's what they were doing. And the other part of it, like how these girls were treated, is, what are you talking about? These non-Muslim girls, they're the worst of creatures. They're garbage. Allah doesn't care about them. Allah has no concern for them. And therefore treat them however you want. Allah doesn't care. He has nothing but contempt for them. It's like, doing this to a girl would be like stepping on a worm. They're disgusting little creatures. Wild stuff.
Well, I see. We had some agreements on certain verses, and we have some different picks on other verses.
Yeah, we do. We'll go ahead. Now we'll go ahead and create the poll. Whose top 10 list do you agree with most?
Me. Okay.
Rashid's. David's. All right, guys.
Oh, David, you don't know Arabic. I know Arabic. Then my list is better. See, I beat you.
We're gonna see. Whose top 10 is? Oh, I even misspelled. whose. Oh, people are putting Rashid's. Shameful.
See, you're gonna lose, David. You need to study Arabic.
They're schooling me. Hey, we've got Eli here. Eli's super cool. Hey, Eli, how you doing? He says, my favorite two apologists love you both, and Jesus loves you both more than you could imagine. Thank you, Eli. Hey, Eli, you going to anything later this year? Got a conference in 2 weeks in El Paso. And then EPS, if you're going to any of that stuff, because Eli actually goes around to, he goes to lots of Christian conferences and so on. But Eli, if you're going to any of those, I'll be seeing you there.
That's great.
Look, Rashid, you're actually winning the poll. Stand humiliated. Your knowledge of Arabic has crushed and humiliated me.
Thank you. All right. Oh, can you promote our my channel in English? I just started it, and I want people to start going to it and watch the series we did together,
Yeah.
Unveiling Islam.
Yeah, and we're still posting those. So I mean, we recorded. I
Yeah.
remember we recorded like 20 some videos. That's in addition
Yeah.
to some long videos that we recorded after
Yeah.
the October 7th attacks. We did several videos that are there. But then we recorded like 20 some videos going through various topics in Islam, sharing testimonies and things like that. And we're kind of like halfway through releasing those. But yeah, guys, there's a link to Brother Rachid's channel in the description box. Definitely check out, because most of Rachid's content over the years was in Arabic, but he's got an
I
English
just started
channel.
doing English.
Yeah, he's got an English channel now, and we collaborated on some videos. So definitely check out the channel. Look around for some topics you're interested in. Watch those videos, and since it's a newer channel and most of his stuff over the years has been in Arabic, go ahead and share those videos. Spread those around. Spread around the links.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it looks like we're the final score is 70%. Said that Rachid's list was best. So 70%. So 70% of people are wrong. Says something about my
we
views.
will do the worst hadiths, right?
That one is more difficult because there's so many more hadiths. But yeah, you heard what Rachid just said, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do another live stream where we go through our list of the top 10 worst hadiths. So there's actually
let's see who's going to win. You need to do your homework very well.
Yeah, so that one's gonna be a bit trickier because again, there's so much more in the hadiths. I still think we're gonna have a couple of overlaps, but not many. I think we might have like 2 or 3 that are that are the same. But other than that, yeah. So that'll also be interesting. So guys, we'll be doing that here pretty soon. We'll go through the top 10 worst hadiths according to David and Rachid, and we'll take another poll and see if you guys are completely wrong yet again.
All right, Dave.
All right. So trying to think. That's it, right?
That's it.
All right. So thanks everyone for watching. We know there was we had fewer viewers than normal because there's a huge live stream that was going on over on God Logic's channel where they were taking all Muslim debate challenges and so on. So yeah. But anyway, had a cool show, and guys, be sure to share it, because in fact, you could share it. You could either share the live stream, but since it is a long live stream, better to actually like learn the verses and go out and share those, spread those everywhere, because especially the ones where we have a total overlap. We've been doing this for a long time. So if we're saying, hey, these are on our list and it's on our same list and so on, probably some good stuff that is very effective in showing people the truth about Islam. And Michael said, I arrived at the stream just in time to vote Rachid, like Gandalf arriving in Helm's Deep. Beware of the Wingling Crusade. Look what he said. He says he just arrived and he clicks on Rachid. Gosh, this is bad. Evil, evil people. Stop spreading mischief in the land, Michael Beacon. You know what'll happen to you.
You need to punish them for mischief.
Yeah, I'm gonna carry out Surah 5 verse 33. All right, thanks, Brother Rachid, for joining us. Thanks for everyone for watching.
Appreciate it.
And we'll catch you all next time.
All right.